great wonders and signs among the people. Opposition arose, however, from the members of the synagogue of freedmen, as it was called. And these were slaves of Rome. They were held in slavery in various places. And they were released from slavery. And so they were still Jews, but they were those who had been enslaved. Instead of free men always, they were once slaves. Kind of a division, natural division, if you will. And it was, they were coerced to speak negatively. They were Jews of Cyrene, Alexandria, as well as the provinces of Cilicia, Asia, and who began to argue with Stephen, but they could not stand up against the wisdom and the spirit that the Spirit gave him as he spoke. Then they secretly persuaded some men to say, "We have heard Stephen speak blasphemous words against Moses and against God." And so they stirred up the people. And the elders and teachers of the law, they seized Stephen and brought him before the Sanhedrin. They produced false witnesses who testified, "This fellow never stopped speaking against this holy place and against the law. For we have heard him say that Jesus of Nazareth will destroy this place and change the customs of Moses that he had handed down to us." All who were sitting at the Sanhedrin looked intently at Stephen, and they saw that his face was like the face of an angel. Now when you think of that, you're thinking of one who's in the chair that's being accused by others. They're filled with hatred, accusations, lies, threats to your personal safety, to the safety of the church that's just beginning to grow. And instead of reflecting back that negative attitude that was piled on him, it looked like he was at peace with himself and with God. He understood that that which he was facing wasn't of God. It was human greed, jealousy. And so Stephen stood to preach, to speak in his defense. What would you say about these accusations being thrown around? First thing was that everything begins with God. God was the creator. He formed Adam and Eve, and throughout the beginning of time, God has been at work, and God is still at work. That would be Stephen's beginning place. It was also theirs. Second was Adam is their spiritual father, and they are inheritors of the promise of the people of God, God's people. And so they continued to live in the Old Testament mode. They were children of Abraham, and God blessed them, set them apart from the other nations. And they believed that. That was the Jewish thought. Thirdly, that Joseph was sold into slavery. You might remember how he was thrown into the well, and brothers were trying to think, what do you do with this guy? Instead of killing him, he was sold into slavery, and God blessed him. And he rose to a very prominent place in Egypt. And when there was a famine in all the land, Joseph had already prepared Egypt with the great stores of food, and he called his family back from Israel. And from the family, Moses was born. And Moses took God's people out of Egypt because the time of Joseph had faded, and pharaohs grew, and they didn't know Joseph. And they were afraid of the vast number of the Jews growing. They said one day they could overtake us. Moses was sent to deliver God's people out of slavery. And so Moses took the people out of Egypt. And the ancestors disobeyed God's law. Do you remember that? It's kind of repeatedly. It just wasn't once, just